Hello and welcome to my spoiler-filled review of Rainbow Rocks. I already did a quick non-spoiler video after I saw the movie on TV, but I wanted to go into more detail after I saw the complete version on DVD. A few of you gave me a heads up that there was some pretty major stuff that got taken out of the TV version, and boy, you weren't kidding. I even went back and re-watched Equestria Girls Part 1 to see if the sequel gave me a new perspective on it. Unfortunately, it really didn't. I did enjoy it more than I did the first time, but I think that had less to do with Rainbow Rocks and more to do with the fact that I already knew it was a piece of fluff going in. But all the problems I remembered are still there, and sadly, Sunset Shimmer is still completely wasted as a villain. Even knowing where the sequel was going to end up, I still had a hard time feeling anything at the end. But anyway, let's move on to Rainbow Rocks. The story this time begins at the end of the first movie by introducing the new villains, and then skips ahead to the end of Season 4. All the kids are getting ready for a musical showcase to help raise money for the school when the obviously not evil New Girls come in and convince them to turn the showcase into a battle of the bands, turning everyone against each other. Meanwhile, Twilight sciences the portal back open and tells everyone that the bad guys are actually sirens from Equestria, which is why they look like seahorses. Shooby-doo, motherfucker. Now she has to write a counterspell to save the day, and that's when all the things happen. Rainbow Dash gets her first song, lesbians are confirmed, Trixie gets a bigger role, Flash still doesn't do anything, but none of that matters anyway because Sunset motherfucking Shimmer walks away with the whole goddamn movie. So first, let's talk about some of the good stuff, and there's a lot of good stuff this time. Right away, the villains are far more effective than Sunset Shimmer was because it's immediately established that they have a certain power and they make use of it throughout the entire movie. And it's worth mentioning the voice actresses who play them. For those who don't know, Adagio is played by Kazumi Evans, who does the singing voice for Rarity, and in this movie she also plays Octavia. Aria is played by Diana Carino, who I'm pretty sure is a newcomer to the series, though apparently she's previously known for playing Barbie. Talk about a departure. And Sonata, the newest character that the fandom is obsessed with, is played by Marika Hendricks, who we haven't heard on the show since Griffin the Brush Off. That's right, folks, your ambassador for Taco Tuesday is Gilda. I think it was really smart to make them sirens too, because it fits the mythological theme of the show, and it helps justify the rest of the movie being framed around the band competition. Let's be honest, after hearing that this was going to be about the main six forming a rock band, there was so much potential for it to go wrong. In fact, by all accounts, this should have been worse than the first movie, but thankfully it was a very welcome return to form as they actually put in effort to have everything make sense. They still don't quite explain why music makes the main characters transform into their hybrid forms, but I think it says a lot about the strength of the movie that as long as something ties into a bigger theme, then I am willing to meet it halfway. I also like how the stuff that was established before carries through here in a way that they don't have to make such a big deal out of everything. This time everyone already knows Twilight's from another dimension. Everyone already knows that Spike can talk, so he just talks whenever he needs to. While the first movie had entire scenes drawn out to show Twilight acting like a pony, this time it's just a thing that she does. So you might see her curl her hands up into hoof shapes, but they don't have to pause the scene to focus on it. Now, as for the music, let's be clear about something. The songs in the first Equestria Girls were not bad. I mean it, the songs there were objectively very well made. Unfortunately, they were also a bit generic and kind of blended into the movie, except for helping Twilight win the crown. Thankfully, the songs in Rainbow Rocks all stand out a lot more, and there's a lot more variety here to appeal to different musical tastes. As for my personal favorite, well, I think I'll talk about that in a little bit, but a very close second is Awesome As I Wanna Be, if only because Rainbow Dash's pure enthusiasm really is pretty infectious. I've heard some people complain about it because it's too self-centered, it's only about how awesome she is, and it seems more like Season 1 Rainbow Dash. Now, first of all, I'm not sure how many rock songs you've heard, but most of them usually are either about being awesome or trying to get laid, though in Rainbow's case it might be both. And of course it's Season 1 Rainbow Dash. Remember, the humans and ponies are not the same, and for these characters, their story is just getting started. Seriously, am I the only one who saw Sliders? But as far as the good stuff goes, I am of course saving the best for last with Sunset Shimmer. With this movie, she's gone from the most forgettable villain to officially being my absolute favorite character of the entire series. Now, I've said in the past that we hardly ever see the Rainbow Powers do the same thing twice, and that's important because Sunset wasn't possessed by an evil force like Nightmare Moon, she's not an immortal, all-powerful being like Discord, and she wasn't overflowing with dark magic like Sombra. She's just a regular unicorn. And so in this particular case, it looks like all the Harmony magic did was awaken her conscience. There's really nothing stopping her from becoming a bully and asserting herself again like she did before, except now she has to think about what kind of person she was, and she actually feels bad about it. This is another way that I think the high school setting is used well, because it's one of those places where if you make a mistake, nobody has the ability to let anything go, and even if you try to make things better, most of the time no one will let you. Admittedly, most of us have never transformed into a raging she-demon, but on some level, Sunset's dilemma is still very relatable, and it makes for a great character arc as she gradually tries to open up and be accepted. Not to mention, she has some of the best dialogue, with Rebecca Shoikett giving one of the best performances in the movie. So, as much as I love the music and the mythology and everything, my absolute favorite scene involves Twilight and Sunset just talking in Pinkie Pie's kitchen late at night. And then you have scenes where she's writing Dear Princess Celestia, and at the end when everyone's fighting, which was also built up throughout the movie, she's the one who gives the friendship lesson, and then she ascends and takes on her hybrid form, and then the movie ends with her writing Dear Princess Twilight. I can't take it. Plus, now that she's no longer overflowing with forced bad girl tude, she's actually super cute. But then we get to one of the biggest parts that got cut from the TV version, the song during the end credits. Shine Like Rainbows is absolutely beautiful. By itself, it's easily the best song in the movie, and I'm gonna be completely serious right now. I was already choked up from the Sunset Shimmer story. That song started playing and I broke into tears. In fact, it still gets me every time I listen to it. That really shows how well the story was set up to that point to have that kind of payoff. And now I'm really sad that I wasn't able to see it in theaters. But speaking of scenes that got cut from TV, yeah, watching the DVD almost feels like a different movie. Of course, you had the bonus scene with human Twilight, and it turns out she's been investigating all the weird shit at the school. Yeah, thanks Discovery Family, we didn't need to see that. Another scene that really stood out to me was the Snips and Snails rap segment. I hated that scene when I saw it on TV. It actually made me think I might have been too harsh on the Pinkie Pie Wonderbolts rap. But then I saw the DVD and I found out that they cut out the funniest parts of the scene. And of course there was a whole other scene with Flash Sentry that got cut. A lot of people are saying it didn't amount to anything, but I think you're missing something really important here. Flash got friend-zoned. Yeah, part of me was really rooting for you, Guy, but come on, we all know you're never really gonna make a move. And I suppose on that note, I should talk about some of the things in this movie that aren't so great. But first, a couple of honorable mentions. Things that keep getting complained about that I don't think are actually mistakes. To begin with, I've seen a lot of people complain that Celestia sending Twilight the book was lazy or just a little too convenient. Guys, it's been confirmed that Celestia gets premonitions, and she already does shit like this all the time. Another big complaint is that Twilight should have realized that she needed to ask her friends for help instead of trying to do everything herself. Now, I will concede that I was expecting her to ask Sunset Shimmer for help during the kitchen scene, but I'm willing to let that slide. Not just because Sunset Shimmer is so incredibly awesome, but because absolutely everyone was holding Twilight up on a pedestal from the moment she arrived. It creates a different kind of tension, and you have to admit, after winning a fistfight with Tyrek, writing a song does sound pretty easy by comparison. But now, onto the actual problems with the movie. To begin with, these outfits look terrible. I have no other point, they just suck. Next, let's talk about Flash. I wasn't joking before, I really do want to root for this guy to be a compelling character, but it just didn't happen. It makes you wonder why they brought him back only to minimize his presence. On the other hand, they also made it look like he was about to punch Snips, and it was cool to get some closure between him and Sunset Shimmer. But besides that, he's been around for 2 movies and part of a season, and we still don't know who the hell he is. Yeah, you could say the same thing about Vinyl Scratch, but at least she has a unique design, and she looks fucking cool. Flash is still just a generic nice guy in the most bland, boring way possible. That's part of the reason the custom paint job in his car seems so lame in the first movie. If you're gonna give someone a custom car, this is how you do it. Also, why does Twilight get confused and start crying? Why doesn't she realize that he's under the siren's influence? It's the whole reason she came here. But speaking of which, my biggest problem with the movie, oddly enough, was with the sirens, despite all the praise that I've given them. The most immediately noticeable issue I had was with the character designs, which personally took a lot of getting used to. If there's ever been any doubt that Hasbro's trying to copy Monster High, I think this pretty much settles it. But an even bigger problem I had was with the bickering, especially between Sonata and Aria. It's paced way too slowly, and frankly, a lot of it's just lame. And yes, this was also a problem with other characters, I just think it stands out the most with these two. A lot of times when they fight, it isn't even about anything. I think you're the worst. Well, I think you are. Now look, I'm glad fans are having fun with these characters, but these scenes really took me out of the movie. And besides that, I also think there was a missed opportunity when it came to their motivation. Their ultimate plan, of course, is to take over the human world. I mean, okay, but they need equestrian magic to do that, and they only have a small amount of it here. And they don't even like it in the human world anyway, so why doesn't it ever occur to them that there's a portal back to Equestria and they should try to look for it? It's just sitting there open the whole time anyway, and they even have a scene with Sunset Shimmer where they admit that they're basically copying what she did. Now for Sunset Shimmer, trying to take over Equestria just came out of nowhere, plus the demon form only worked in the human world, so I'm not sure what was going to happen when she went through the portal. But because the Sirens actually need equestrian magic, it would make a lot more sense for them to try and go back. I'm sorry, but the fact that the portal is always open and hardly anyone ever uses it seriously bugs the crap out of me in both of these movies. Also, while the movie does an okay job getting the personal conflicts resolved before the final showdown starts, it still feels like the characters didn't really learn anything. The whole movie, Rainbow Dash keeps ignoring Fluttershy, and then at the end she just goes, "Hey, let's play Fluttershy's song," for no reason. There's also a thing between Applejack and Rarity where Rarity wants to make costumes for the band because, hey, you're putting on a show, of course you're gonna wear costumes. It's part of what gives each band a coordinated image. But AJ is more practical and says it's all about the music and sounding good. And they both have a point, but then Applejack says, "Hey, we should do this in style. What you got, Rarity?" You know she still doesn't give a shit about costumes. It's like everyone just said, "Hey, let's just do the opposite of what we've been doing. Problem solved." Still, in the end, just about everything here was a huge improvement over the first Equestria Girls. It looks better, it sounds better, the story's better, the whole thing actually feels like a movie this time. There are still problems here that keep it from scoring as high as I would like it to, but the fact remains that as of this recording, I've already watched it multiple times and I'm more than happy to watch it again. Taking the deleted scenes into consideration, I'm giving the complete version of Rainbow Rocks a 7 out of 10.